All right, so just wanted to jump on here and kind of do an unboxing of the incubator that we just received. And we need to do it today because eggs are on their way. And timing for that, we thought we would have them today. And kind of glad it didn't happen today because it snowed in Alabama. I just want to say 12 hours ago, we were in short sleeve shirts and flip flops. So, anyway, welcome to Alabama. But it does mean that we need to get this unboxed so that we can get it set up and so it can run a little bit before we actually put the eggs in there. So, we'll talk a little bit more about the eggs and all that once we get them. So, hopefully, at this point, I think it's too late for today. So, it's probably going to be tomorrow. I did a lot of research when it comes to incubator. The first time I had an incubator, I think I was in fourth grade maybe, and my grandfather just showed up at the house and he brought an old styrofoam incubator and a whole bunch of duck eggs. And by the way, we did not live on a lake or a pond. So uh, we had a madhouse in the backyard when they started hatching, but it was a lot of fun. And eventually I had a friend who did have a pond and I gave them to him. But this is the first one we've had as a Leanstead. And so we did some research. There are a ton of options out there. And we really wanted um, to not get the cheapest thing that was out there to try. But also, right now, we just can't afford the most expensive ones. And we're not sure how we would use them. And so this was a great alternative for the two. So the one we landed on is the brand is the Maticoopx, and it does have an X on the end. So I'm not sure if you can see that on here, but it is the Maticoopx X, and they have two models of these. One is the 20, and one is the 30. And we were going to just get the 20, and that was the plan all along. And 20, you have to convert chicken math to quail math. So it's really set up for 20 chicken eggs, but we're going to put quail eggs in there. And I just, in all the research, people discussing it in multiple forums, a lot of people kind of lean more towards the 30. And the reason they do is because it tends to do a better job of stabilizing the temperature and the humidity. The 30 does over the 20. And I didn't really want to get the 20 and then, about 2 weeks later go, why didn't I get 30? So we're on one of our trips, delivery trips, and Hope pulled up the phone and we went ahead and pulled the trigger on a 30. I'm glad we did because I think it was the next day or the day after I started seeing people freaking out because they were no longer available. And you have to remember the time of the season. So this is hatching season, and so everybody went out and grabbed one because of the time of the year. But I think it's been maybe a week or so, and then they've already recovered with all the mad rush. So you can still get one, and we'll provide a link in the description below about where we get ours. So that being said, there's several features about this one. The fact that there's so many people that recommended it. Um, and hands down, when people were comparing the two, they kind of kept going back to this one. So the majority was a positive, and we stuck with that. It does have stable temperature. Some others tend to struggle with that, and people have to use different things to try to maintain that temperature. But most people said they say it's like set it and mostly forget it. So it's not like just completely forget it. But it does display the humidity level on there so that it's easy to look at and different ways to regulate that. And there's an external um, water on this one where a lot of the other ones you had to take the top off, put water in the bottom. So that's a big bonus for me. And then it has the auto stop egg turner. These are set up for chicken eggs, so keep that in mind. People do 3D print some inserts for putting quail eggs in there. I've asked people if that was necessary, mandatory, and they said no. So we do a little more research about that. We may get some later. My son has a 3D printer, but he's super busy, so I'm not sure if he would be able to make some for us or not. I talked about the external water filler. There is a candler in there, and bonus, a lot of people talk about, buying a separate one that looks like a flashlight. We don't have one, so the fact that this has one, and they talk about how this one is a lot easier to use than some of the other ones. And I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that the top of this is black, and that comes into play when you turn the light off, and then you put the egg on top of the candler. And then there is also a countdown to hatch. So a lot of really good features, a whole lot more that we don't really understand or know right now. But we are in need of getting this out and getting it set up and tested so that, Lord willing, the eggs will be here tomorrow. And we need to let them set, obviously, for a period of time before we put them in there. But we want to make sure everything's good to go in here. So without further ado, I will open the box. So we did get this from Amazon, and it was fairly quick delivery, so no problems there. And there is obviously some instructions in the top, and there's some things that we'll need to do immediately to get the ball rolling for making sure everything's working well. There is, this is probably the power cord. That's that part of it right there. And here's the water bottle. So it's nice to have that. And I wonder if that's just made so that if you ever had to, you could shift to a soda bottle. But anyway, probably not, because they want to be food safe. And then that's just packaging. But you can see how, fits in there nice and snug. So there you have it. It is pretty light, and I don't know why I thought it was going to be bigger than it is, and I'm glad that that it's not. I don't think there's a huge size difference between the 20 and the 30, which was another reason why I wanted to go ahead and just get the 30. But take some protective tape off the side. This one, compared to some other ones, and going back to the styrofoam one from way back in the day, those had very tiny viewing slots to it. And this, you can see all the way around. So it'd be a lot of fun once they start hatching. But here's the top. And there is a temperature setting button, hatch day setting, egg turning test, the egg candler, and the days reset to 21. So all of that is on there. And there's also the vent. So if you're trying to regulate some of the humidity, you can kind of open and close the vent to help. Yeah, and one of the big differences between this one and others that you want to check into if you're exploring other brands is making sure they have forced air. And so there is the fan. I don't know if I showed you that part, but there is the fan in there, and that helps keep all this area with an even temperature, instead of, if the heater is just right here, you would maybe only get the heat right here and not on the outer edges. So that's part of it. And then these are a little bit different than some of the other ones that you may have seen. So they just rock back and forth. And I don't want to force this piece underneath, but very easy to take out. And this is where people will 3D print an insert right here. And you would probably have to have one for standard size quail eggs and one for jumbos, I would guess. But we're not going to mess with those right now. So other thing about it is that all this comes out super easy for cleaning purposes. So there's that. And then the bottom tray is easy to, to take out and clean between hatches. So very simple. And I have seen that because there's Facebook groups about just this one, the Maticoop 30. But I have seen some lady on Etsy. She makes a quilt that fits over the top. So if you live someplace where you're really struggling with the temperatures outside, you could get some from her. We're from Alabama. So other than today when it snowed, which is super weird, we're not going to have a problem with temperature. We're probably just going to struggle with humidity. So that'll be a different story for us. So there you have it. There is the Maticoop 30. And we will read the instructions and get this up and running so we can check everything out. Hopefully we don't have any problems. And then hopefully tomorrow we'll do a little unboxing of some eggs. So anyway, I am working on a document that helps with all the gathering the information that I had, pull it all together. And at some point I will link that down below so that you can, it'd be easier for you to find in the future. And my livestock guardian dog apparently is hungry. So talk to y'all later.